Hello, everybody, and welcome in to another episode of the Couch GMs podcast. It is Friday, November, I almost said December 18th, 2022. I am your peacekeeper, George Kerth, while Tyler Snyder and Cody Roadcat preparing for Thursday Night Football are in the same location. Boys, a little different. How's it going?
It's going good. I mean, I'm actually kind of surprised Snyder showed up after the Packers embarrassed the Titans yet again in a snowy Lambeau field.
Yeah, no, honestly, the reason why you don't have to be a peacekeeper today is usually when Cody's team loses, he just gets quiet and it's just like, okay, we lost. I'm the one that gets angry when we lose, and clearly I'm happy. So, seeing the Titans with the 17-13 victory, it is definitely exciting, and I'm happy about it. So, this is why we're okay right now.
And yeah, it is pregame, so fine, I get it. But we'll see if we get any hot takes going that gets anyone going. I apologize if my voice cracks a little bit. I'm still recovering from Monday night screaming at the fact that the Eagles couldn't pull that game out, but it's fine. What we're going to cover in today's show, we're going to hit some NFL news and notes. There's not a lot that these guys didn't cover on our Tuesday show. And then we're going to break down every Week 11 game in our Week 11 preview. Make sure you find us on thecouchgms.com and our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, at thecouchgms. And join our Discord chat. The link is in the description of the video or podcast you're watching or listening to. All right, let's just jump right into NFL news. So as we said, not a lot of NFL news, but the big one is Browns versus Bills, originally supposed to be played at 1 o'clock on Sunday in Buffalo, has been moved to 1 o'clock in Detroit due to weather concerns. Now, I know we were actually debating here, Tyler and I, about the weather wouldn't be a big deal probably on Sunday. The snow is supposed to happen leading into Sunday. But for travel and purposes of saving resources for the city to deal with the storm, they moved it out to Detroit. And that also means the Bills have 2 games in 4 days in Detroit because they're going to play on Thanksgiving as well. I don't know if this really affects the game, but what are your guys' thoughts?
It affects the game because, them trying to play in snow affects the passing game, makes the running back slower. It usually makes it a lower scoring game. Them going to Detroit and not having to deal with the snow, it means you're going to play your Bills just like usual. It affects the game by not affecting the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Snyder. And I also think, if we take a step back from the game, the Bills are in the process of building a new stadium. So I'm curious because now this is the second time they've had to play in Detroit because of weather, if they reconsider not putting a roof on the new stadium in Buffalo so that they're not losing out on these home games and that home revenue.
Yeah, I don't know exactly because like I said, they were trying to aim the fact that they were moving it more towards saving resources for the city and safety of players and fans going to the game, not as much the weather actually being a part of the game. So even in a dome stadium, it sounds like they would have moved it at that point. So it might not make a difference either way. It's just the nature of having a team up in Buffalo where you have those major snow squalls that come through.
Yeah, I am disappointed though that we're not going to get to see like a whiteout game. Like one of my favorite games ever to watch was the Eagles Lions game when you literally couldn't see anything. Now it would have been funny if there was 6 feet of snow and both Bills running backs are under 6 feet. Like if they were like running underneath the snow, like obviously they would have cleared it off. But like that visual in my head is also pretty funny.
Yeah, exactly. I wish. But speaking of the Eagles, the only other news we have is the Eagles signed 2 defensive tackles after failing to stop the run on Monday, signing former Charger Linval Joseph and former Dolphin Ndamukong Suh. Not really big fantasy relevance, but the Eagles defense trying to tool up to stop the run game, which has been their weakness in recent weeks.
Yeah, they're missing rookie Jordan Davis for sure. And we're just waiting for them to sign Vince Young so we can call him the dream team and we can stop talking about the Eagles.
Yeah, this reminds me of, Tom Brady of old, where when he was on the Patriots, everyone knew the Patriots were probably going to be in the Super Bowl. So all the big name free agents took a deal to go to the Patriots. And then when he went to the Bucks, everyone knew the Bucks would be in the Super Bowl. So everyone took a deal to go to the Bucks. Well, Brady's not looking so hot this year. Right now, the Eagles are the only ones that are looking decent against some crappy teams. So the big name free agents just signing with the Eagles, hoping to have that chance at a Super Bowl. I don't think they're going to get Odell, though.
No, Odell's still the big name. He's going to make all Eagles fans mad and go to Dallas.
I hope so. That'd be cool.
He's going to make all fans mad and go to Dallas. Let's not just include Eagles fans there. I know the Giants are big in on it, but everyone hates Dallas besides Dallas fans, so we're all not going to like it. But yes, we'll keep an eye on if there's any Odell news that breaks in the next coming few weeks. But in the meantime, why don't we end our new segment and jump into our Week 11 preview. Week 11 in fantasy football features 4 teams on bye. We got the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Miami Dolphins, the Seattle Seahawks, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Speaking of Tom Brady there, we don't have to talk any more of him this episode. But we can jump right into our 1 o'clock window where we have the Chicago Bears traveling to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons obviously fighting with Tampa Bay for the lead in that division. And they're going to get the Chicago Bears without Khalil Herbert, who was placed on IR seemingly unexpectedly at the beginning of this week. We'll start with David Montgomery. In a good matchup now, does he immediately become that solid RB2 again, not having to split with Khalil Herbert? Or are we still kind of down on him, knowing that the Bears offense is currently running through the legs of Justin Fields?
Yeah, I think that Montgomery becomes that running back too. And I'm not even because I'm super sold on Montgomery and he's that good that he has to be in there, but honestly, where are you at right now in fantasy that you are able to bench a workhorse running back? I mean, the running backs this year have not been thrilling. I feel like I don't see that many options on a normal team that you can play and still bench David Montgomery in this situation. And especially in this matchup, I think that he'll do fine against the Atlanta Falcons. My question is, who will have more rushing yards this game? Justin Fields or the entire Atlanta Falcons?
Wow. That one, I'm going to have to go with Justin Fields. I mean, after what we've seen from him, I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I'm pretty sure he's yet to still have a 200-yard passing game at any point this season. He's still yet to have completed or even have 20 attempts, I believe is still the number that he's trying to reach. They are using him as a, run first option. It's like you can kind of see the hesitancy to even let him throw the ball, which is he has started to get, connections. We've seen Cole Kmet step up. We've seen Darnell Mooney seen up. Chase Claypool is in there now. So hopefully that gets there. But the way he's been running, especially the last 2 weeks, I feel like he's still going to be the lead horse for both teams.
So he is currently, I believe, I just looked it up on the way here, 6th, maybe 7th in the league in rushing. But is he, in your opinion, a top 3 to 5 quarterback the rest of the season?
Fantasy-wise?
Fantasy-wise.
Yeah, I think you have to – I would say top 5. I don't know if I'd go top 3, but I would say he's right on that borderline 5 and 6 just because he does get a knockdown because take Lamar Jackson for a second. He's on pace to break Lamar Jackson's rushing record for a quarterback if he continues to play like he has. But Lamar Jackson, it doesn't happen often, but you still know he has the ability to give you a 300 to 400-yard game. We haven't seen Justin Fields give us a 200-yard game. So you have to get those rushing yards. So one team puts a spy on him and he only gets, 50 yards, you're looking at a 12-point week. So I do think there's a little bit of, trepidation when starting. I know I couldn't believe I pulled that one out either. Playing Justin Fields, but I would still put him at quarterback 5 rest of season just because of the rushing ability.
Trepidation. All right.
Yeah, I'm impressed here.
That kind of podcast.
Tyler's playing words with friends before we started recording, so I've been spelling words, I've been thinking of words.
Oh my gosh. But I would also go with, I think he's going to be a top 5 the rest of the year, but I'm also kind of, pushing the brakes on top 3. I'm just thinking back to that rookie year of Lamar Jackson that Cody was talking about when they played the Chargers in the playoffs and they literally just played safeties at linebacker. And that was all it took to shut down that rushing attack because they had the spies, the guys with speed close enough to the line of scrimmage to get him. So somebody eventually is going to catch on to this and say, go ahead and try to beat us with your arm because they don't think he can. And it's now up to debate if he can or not. But in the meantime, I still don't think I personally like Darnell Mooney, but Cole Kmet, especially at the tight end position, is pretty much an automatic play at this point.
Oh,
I know you guys. Okay, I listened to your episode that you guys recorded for our Tuesday show, and you were like, hey, I know George isn't here when he's finally back on the Cole Kmet train. Listen, what tight ends are left? Everyone's out. Our mid-tier of tight ends, that 3 to 6, all of them basically hit IR this week. Cole Kmet has 2 touchdowns in 2 straight games. I don't love it. I hate the fact that I have to be back on the Cole Kmet train, but I'd literally be dumb to not say start Cole Kmet at this point.
George, you're the captain, conductor, pilot of whatever Cole Komet transportation that you're taking to the fantasy championship, my friend. You are the leader of that fan club for sure. But we talked a lot about the Bears. We should talk a little bit about the Falcons, and they also have an interesting split at running back with Cordell Patterson. He's back. Tyler Algier. Do you want to throw Caleb Huntley in there? I think he has regressed to the RB3. But do you feel confident playing either of those guys? Do I need to go back to uh, Cordell Patterson, Tyler Algier, or both,
or neither.
or neither?
I feel like you're starting Cordell Patterson, in my opinion. I don't think that Tyler Algier is reliable enough to be able to start because they're going to split when it comes to rushing. But I still think Cordell Patterson, I mean, being a former wide receiver, he is still going to be the receiving threat. So a lot of the passing game, because they don't really trust Mariota to throw deep, a lot of the passing game does go through the running back screen. So I think that Patterson is going to be your guy. I know he didn't put up the points you were expecting last week, but at the same time, like, he's just coming back from injury. He's getting up to speed. But this Bears defense really isn't bad. It really has held some teams in check. So I would play Patterson, not Algier, but I would still have my reservations. Don't expect a big week.
Yeah, I'm with Tyler. Like, if you have other places to go do it, but you most likely do not, you have to play Patterson. And the only other person I'd play on the Falcons is Kyle Pitts because, again, why not? Every other tight end got hurt this week. There's not really options.
Yeah, but I'm with you on that one.
Fair enough.
All right, I think that wraps up Bears Falcons, and we can move on to another team in the Falcons division, the Carolina Panthers, traveling to the Baltimore Ravens. And the Panthers quarterback carousel continues with PJ Walker out with his high ankle sprain and Baker Mayfield back in to start. How does that affect the likes of DJ Moore?
I hear that some players are actually clamoring that they want Sam Darnold to get his opportunity as well. Like, players in the locker room are asking for Darnold. But I think Baker is a step up from PJ Walker with his arm. So I feel like DJ Moore will improve a little bit. But, I mean, the Panthers as a whole are just a bad football team right now. I mean, Dante Foreman's probably the only guy on that team that I am playing. And even him, I mean, you got Chuba Hubbard is now getting healthier. He's going to start eating into that backfield more. So even Foreman, I'm not thrilled with playing. But I think I'm still leaving DJ Moore on the bench until I am proven that there is a connection with him and Baker.
Let me ask you, though, because, like, they ran the ball about 1.5 million times last week to the point where, like, even though Chuba Hubbard and even Blackshear got significant touches together, they got 11. Laviska Shenault got 2. Dante Foreman still touched the ball 31 times. Do you think that them putting Baker in is really going to raise their passing rate so much that Foreman, I should say running back carries in general, are going to go down that much?
Well, it's not that I think it's going to raise it so much, but I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care what the team is that you're playing. Expecting a running back to get 31 touches every game is just not sustainable. It's not going to keep up that way. So I don't think, you're not immediately like, okay, I'm off of him because Baker's in there, but you're also not riding him because he's expecting that he's going to get that many touches every single game.
Oh, 100%. I'm not expecting 31, but I'm still thinking, like, even with Hubbard mixed in, 18 carries a game still seems fair with how they've been using their running backs.
Yeah, like I said, I still think he's going to be heavily utilized, and I still think you're probably playing Foreman. Just have your reservations with him because at the same time, we also need to think it's the Panthers. They're a bad team. They're probably going to fall behind early in this game. And like I've said 100 times, I don't like running backs on bad teams because once you fall behind, you have to abandon the run. You have to start throwing the ball. Now, yes, Foreman is used in the passing game, but you can't just flat out rely on that. It's still a running back in the passing game. So I feel like there's some sketchiness there. I feel like you're going to have one of those random games where it's like, we don't like Baker, but he threw it 50 times, like something ugly like that. Either way, I just don't trust the Panthers. I think that's the biggest part of it.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more confident playing Foreman than it sounds like you are. And I feel like George is on the same wavelength with me. And I would even play DJ Moore this week as a flexible option. You mentioned that they're probably going to get behind. Well, they're playing the Ravens, so they're going to get behind. But they're also going to get back in it in the fourth quarter because that's the Ravens' MO this year. And if they're going to get it back in it through the air, it's going to be using DJ Moore as a weapon. I know Laviska Shenault scored last week on a nice big play. You're not running out to start him by any means.
You're not?
No, no,
Oh,
we're not. Um, but DJ Moore, I mean, he's despite his bad season, he's still a top 30 fantasy wide receiver. So I think you can flex him this week.
that's just because fantasy is bad. That's
That's
not
true.
because he's been better than we expected. It's just because everybody's been worse than we expected.
Points are down
That's
across the
true.
league, and we're seeing it in
It's
fantasy.
crazy.
100%. And the only thing I'll say is I'm pumping the brakes on DJ Moore if I can help it this week because he has not seen a change in targets between quarterbacks, but he was much more efficient with PJ Walker than he was with Baker. So I'm not just going to assume he's going to make a jump just because Baker's coming back in because it was actually the opposite before. But I think we can get off the Panthers talk. This is a bad team we're spending a lot of time on. Baltimore Ravens side of the ball, everyone's asking about Mark Andrews and Gus Edwards. They were both limited participants in practice on Thursday. I'm pretty sure it seems like both of them are going to go this week. And I think both of them can go right back in your lineup. I think Edwards is definitely going to be the lead back if he's healthy. And Mark Andrews, auto lock play no matter what.
I think Andrews is an auto lock. I agree with that one. I'm not saying Gus Edwards is an automatic throwback in your lineup, only because Kenyon Drake has been doing pretty well in his absence. So I feel like it's going to be more of a split. I know last time we were expecting a split and Gus Edwards kind of took the reins, but you know, Edwards also came back from an injury and got injured again. Like, I don't think they're going to go right back to, okay, we need to give this guy a bunch of carries. Like, they're probably going to take it easy on him now and do more of a split. I could expect a 50-50 with Drake and Edwards. And anytime there's a 50-50 split, I'm not in love with the running backs in general. But I still think that Edwards is a possible flex play, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think you could even consider Kenyon Drake as well. You're just banking on which one gets the touchdown. You do have the benefit that the Panthers are currently ranked 28th, giving up almost 26 fantasy points a week to the running back. So which one gets the touchdown is the big question. If you have Gus Edwards, you can
Lamar.
play him. If you're really desperate for a running back and you still have Kenyon Drake, because there's some running backs on bye this week like Kenneth Walker, Leonard Fournette, the rookie Rashad White. Like, there's a lot of decent running backs out there, so you might be forced into a guy like Kenyon Drake. So at least it's a positive matchup if you would need it.
Which running back is going to get the touchdown? Probably Lamar. Lamar Jackson will probably run it.
It's true, but if we're saying they're going to be up in this game, like the Panthers are going to be playing from behind, you might see multiple. And that's why, like, even if you're desperate for a flex play or a wide receiver, because you have wide receivers out with that duo in Miami and such, Devin Duvernay might not be a bad snag off the wire as a dart throw, but I'm also trying to find better options than him.
Fair enough.
All right.
All right.
Anybody else? Are you starting any of these Ravens receivers? Like, do you actually feeling confident with any of them moving forward? Like, I don't know.
I'm starting Duvernay on matchups. That's it.
I haven't liked Duvernay all year.
Because, like, we're right at the trade deadline. If you think you can move one of them now that Duvernay's number one, do you make the move or do you hold on to him because you have
If I can move Duvernay, I'll move Duvernay.
team?
I'm not going to acquire Duvernay, but if I can throw him in, maybe I'd not be able to trade him 1-for-1, but if I can throw Duvernay in to help me acquire a piece for the stretch one, I would absolutely do it.
So you just think,
about
like,
where I'm at.
I mean, you said, like, Lamar Jackson can drop those 300-yard games. Like, I know it's not often. I don't think he's a good thrower by any means, but we can't expect Mark Andrews to get all of it. Like, somebody's got to be catching these passes, right?
Well, your most consistent guy is going to be Duvernay, but you got to think, like, Deshaun Jackson got semi-involved. He's going to get, like, 60-yard games here and there. Same thing with, my gosh, I'm not even remembering the guy for the. Their receivers are a whole kind of mess of, like, mixture of guys who were not really relevant before, guys like James Prochet, who's like, who the heck is that? Like, there's those random guys have been getting involved enough that they're kind of skewing the whole pass game when he does go for those 300-yard games. Your consistent guy's Andrews, and your guy who's going to get a couple of pops is Duvernay. I don't think anybody, like, it's not going to be consistent enough anywhere to really.
So one
decide.
final question on the Ravens, and then we'll move on because I don't like talking about them to begin with. So if we're not trusting these receivers that much,
Mm-hmm.
do you think that there's any chance the Ravens turn to more of a two tight end system now that Isaiah Likely has gotten more time? And do you think Isaiah Likely will end up being a potential starting tight end for fantasy alongside Mark Andrews?
Depends.
I mean,
is everybody that's playing tight end in that mid tier going to keep getting hurt? Because if that's the case, yes. But as of now, I still feel like he's probably tight end like 15 still left out there. Maybe that'll change in the next few weeks, and I'll be eating my words because I always do get stuff wrong, it seems like, when I try to talk trash on somebody. But there's a good
True.
chance that they try to use Likely more in the slot, if not even as a second tight end, just because of their wide receiver situation.
Yeah, and I think he might become a better asset with Mark Andrews back. Like he had some decent games being a secondary option. The last 2 weeks without Mark Andrews, he hasn't been that guy we had hoped for. But hopefully, with some more attention, he can be the second option that we're looking for in Baltimore. But it is a wait and see game. But like we have said all along, tight ends are so bad at this point. You either have Travis Kelsey or you have a random dude.
Yep.
That's exactly where we're at. So why don't we talk about two of those other potential random dudes in our Bills home game in Detroit, the Bills hosting the Cleveland Browns, kind of. And those two dudes, obviously, one of Tyler's favorite, David Njoku, who was a limited participant in practice on Thursday. And then the Bills, Dawson Knox, who was a big disappointment this year, as we expected him to build off of his performance last year, and it just quite hasn't been the same. I know Knox has been probably less productive. Njoku's been productive when he's played. He's just been hurt for a while. Are either of these guys you're trying to grab off the waiver wire to fill some of these tight end holes?
If Njoku is out there on free agency, I'm grabbing him. I mean, I don't think I'm playing him this week, even if he does actually play, which I don't think he's going to. I think he's going to end up missing just one more week. But even if he does play, I'm probably not playing him this week. It's a tough team in the Bills, but also like he's just coming back off injury. It's going to take a game to get up to speed. But after this, I mean, Njoku's been one of the most solid tight ends this year. And we forget that when Njoku came out of college, he was one of the best tight end prospects. Like we looked at him like, oh my gosh, this guy is going to be huge. But he ended up not getting the opportunities that he should have had because the Browns are like, hey, now that we have this good tight end, let's sign two more good tight ends and let's play them. So he never really got the opportunities, but now he is. And now that they don't really have any other weapons, but you also have to think, I mean, whether this is a bonus or not, Deshaun Watson's coming back. And Deshaun Watson is a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. Say what you want about him personally. This is fantasy podcast. So fantasy wise, Deshaun Watson's a better quarterback than Jacoby Brissett. So that gives a boost to Amari Cooper. That gives a boost to David Njoku. That even gives a boost to Nick Chubb, in my opinion, because people will be watching the pass more. They'll probably loosen up on the run just a little bit. So I would definitely grab Njoku.
Yeah, I'm right there. I think he said everything I wanted to say. So I have nothing else to add. Well done, my friend.
Sorry, I rambled pretty long there, but I got it all out.
No, that's totally fine. So I'll try to knock the Browns side out pretty quick here because the Bills, tough defense, tough matchup. I think you're probably just limited to Nick Chubb, and we're not worried about the weather anymore, at least. But Amari Cooper has been a solid wide receiver, and I just don't like the matchup, especially with Jacoby Brissett still playing this one more week here. You guys differ from that, or are we good?
I'd say he's a possible flex play, just because like they're going to have to throw the ball to somebody. They're probably going to fall behind, so they're going to have to throw the ball. So I think he's a flex play, especially with how good he's been this year. But again, it's not somebody I'm throwing in my lineup, and I'm like, oh yeah, I got Cooper. I won this week.
Yeah, I think he can be in there, and I also think you can throw Kareem Hunt in the mix as well this week. I know he's not the most exciting name. He is technically the backup, but I think in this matchup, a little bit more pass heavy, or they're going to try to run the ball and keep both guys fresh. I think Kareem Hunt can move into your lineups this week.
We are missing 4 to 5 solid starting fantasy running backs on bye this week, so I get that for sure. Moving on to the Bills side of the ball, Josh Allen was a limited participant in practice on Thursday. He's just kind of in maintenance for his elbow injury, but he looked completely fine in the game of the year last week, so I think he's going to be good to go in your lineups. And Isaiah McKenzie did not practice with an illness. I know there's probably not a lot of people out there trying to target Isaiah McKenzie at this point, but he's probably still going to go. I'll start with the running backs. I know Tyler never liked starting Devin Singletary, but he cashed in 2 touchdowns last week. We are down 4 to 5 starting running backs for fantasy. Are you in on Devin Singletary?
Nope.
I am.
I'll never start Devin Singletary. I don't want him in any team. Somebody offers him to me, I'm declining it. I don't want Devin Singletary. I mean, yes, he got 2 touchdowns last week, but I mean, Jamal Williams gets 2 touchdowns on random days all the time, and I don't like starting Jamal Williams either because he only gets 3 carries, but 2 of them are for touchdowns. So, no, I'm not starting him.
You just don't like the boom or bust running backs, which I get. I'm also someone who likes to lean towards, people that have the number of carries and involvement in the offense. But I mean, I would still probably consider Singletary. I have to consider him in a couple of my leagues
Well,
actually.
I mean, look, I
And
say
then
no, but at the same time, like it obviously depends on who you have, and that's why we try to say it all the time. Like, if you are unsure about something, reach out to us. Like, if it's Devin Singletary or CEH at this point, like, okay, I'll play Devin Singletary. But if it's Devin Singletary or even Tony Pollard with Zeke back, like, I'm playing Pollard. I'm not playing Singletary.
all right. And then other Bills, I mean, we got Stephon Diggs. I'm still someone who's debating as a flex for Gabriel Davis. Anybody else?
No, I think you hit them all.
That's it.
All right. Cool. And then we can move on here to the Washington Commanders traveling to the Houston Texans. Commanders
How about
are
those
the only
Commanders?
Wow, the Commanders coming off a big win.
Yep. Hey, they did.
They played such a clean game. I've never seen a more penalty-free game
I
for
have
the
Yeah.
Commanders. Like,
No, okay, so real talk though, I want to give a shout out to Jason Kelsey because look, we as fans, we do it all the time. We watch a game and you're like, oh, but they missed that penalty. Oh, but they called that penalty and it shouldn't have been. Oh, the refs missed that. Oh, this happened. Oh, that. Like, Jason Kelsey came out and basically said, was there a face mask? No, because it wasn't called. Like, we should still be
Mhm.
able to win the game no matter what the calls are. Penalties are missed all the time. And he said that going out there and blaming other people for your loss is just a loser's mentality. So, huge shout out to Jason Kelsey. Like, that was awesome speech, awesome quote. Like, that's a good way to look at it because, like I said, as fans, we blame everybody else but our team every week.
100%. And that's why Jason Kelsey is not only one of Eagles fans' favorite players, but I think he has a good rep around the league because of things like that. But no, honestly, if there was a play that had the Washington win that game, it was them forcing a fumble on the deep ball to Quez Watkins. Like, if the Eagles got a touchdown on that drive, it wouldn't have mattered any of the penalties. I think that game was going the other way. So ref ball all you want, but that's not at all what we're talking about here. Commanders and Texans. The Commanders are still probably going to be without J.D. McKissick this week. Logan Thomas and Curtis Samuel are both limited participants in practice on Thursday. Good matchup. So you're probably going to try to play as many of your Commanders assets as you can in a big bye week. So it's going to be Curtis Samuel if he goes, Terry McLaurin in your lineup. How about both running backs? Can we play another episode of Brian Robinson, Antonio Gibson, both or neither?
both.
Yeah, I feel like this is the week that you can say both. The Texans,
I probably won't say many for the Commanders,
the
but
Texans' run defense is absolutely horrendous. One of the worst in NFL history right now. So, yeah, no, playing both.
I'm with you on both. And then we can move to the Texans side where it's Dameon Pierce.
yeah,
That's it.
Yep. Okay.
I almost said none. I forgot he was even on that team. Other than that, yeah, Dameon Pierce for sure.
Damian Pierce is
Just-
like fourth in the league in rushing. That's pretty
Yeah.
surprising for a bad team.
That's because they run it 35 times.
Because
They're
they
just
have
like,
nothing else to
We're
go
going
to.
to just give it to Pierce. If we get a first down, we get a first down. If we punt, we punt. That's our mentality.
Look, I guess you could be worse if you're the Texans. Could be a worse mentality. No trust in
Yep.
Davis Mills?
No.
He is not. He was last year. You could argue that he was the best rookie quarterback of the class, and then this year it's like, oh, this is why he was drafted in the second round. So,
Third round even, I think, actually.
well, it probably was the third.
Yeah. Anyway, I think that wraps up Commanders Texans. There's not much to talk about there. And then, of course, Philadelphia Eagles traveling to the Indianapolis Colts. And the Eagles are a little bit banged up now. Dallas Goedert, hit injured reserve. Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown are both limited participants in practice. I think Smith and Brown are going to go, and I have no problem putting Brown in my lineup. Smith, honestly, depending on your situation, solid flex. A lot of people are probably going to be forced to play him. And then Miles Sanders and Jalen Hurts in your lineup. I'm not touching any of the tight ends on this team until I see how it breaks down. If they're going to be involved without Goddard. So that just takes another fantasy tight end off, and there's not really anyone to throw right in that spot.
Who are the tight ends? Fill me in.
Jack Stoll and Grant Calcaterra.
Who?
Yeah, Grant's a rookie, right?
Calcaterra is a rookie.
Mexico
He's
State.
he is technically third on the depth chart, but I would not be shocked if he ends up being the guy that gets more.
Look, okay, both of those random tight ends that George just said, I'm not going to pretend like I know them. Um, Great first touchdown bet options. You throw $1 on either one of them, you're probably winning like $60. And it's a tight end. They're always there for the touchdowns. They're always those options. So first touchdown bet right there.
All right, I'll throw $1 on Grant this week.
There you
But I
go.
think George wrapped it up with all the Eagles players that you're
Yep.
starting versus sitting. But also, you started this conversation with they're a little banged up. But do you know how frustrated it was when on the Monday night broadcast they mentioned that through the 10 weeks, the Eagles have had 17 of their 22 starters start every game?
That's
Like,
impressive.
I vary.
Yeah.
But as fans of injured teams and just seeing injuries across, it was like, what is in the water in Philadelphia?
Cody and I are texting each other during this game as fans of two teams that are currently on pace to break the NFL record for most injuries in a season. And we're like, this is annoying. Not only did they have the easiest schedule, but they got the healthiest team ever. Like,
Oh, look at George's face.
no,
So
He's like, I'm looking
I
down
will
the
tell
couch and
you.
ready to punch.
No, I will tell you. The secret is most likely light practice schedule. The Eagles take more mental reps than physical reps than any team in the league. They run walkthroughs almost every single day of the week.
all I'm saying is we gave you A.J. Brown. The least you could have done is given us your athletic trainer in return so that we could have less injuries. That's the least you could have done.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I'm not going to comment on that. Tyler, you love the Colts. Do you want to talk about them?
Oh, man. The Indianapolis Colts, the red-hot Jeff Saturday-led Indianapolis Colts.
Dude, if he beats the Eagles this week, like there are going to be so many freezing cold hot takes on Twitter being like, this guy is terrible. But if he comes out and beats the Eagles, I don't think he will. I think we saw the cliche, like, rally around the new guy. Okay, now we're going to be back to the team that really was not performing well.
So I think the biggest thing with that game is going to be, I mean, George, in your opinion, Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh, how ready do you think they'll be for this week?
Not very
Will they
ready, and
play?
Fletcher Cox is another one that's also banged up on this team. So that Jonathan Taylor can win this game for the Colts himself.
So yeah, that's the biggest thing. Is it doesn't matter about Jeff Saturday. It doesn't matter how bad this team is playing. It's they have Jonathan Taylor, and if he plays like the Jonathan Taylor of last year, the dude's going to go off, and they could actually have a chance to win this game. But if he plays like the Jonathan Taylor of the first half of this year, then Eagles are going to win this handedly, and it's not going to be a problem. But I think Jonathan Taylor is definitely in your lineup. Michael Pittman, at this point, I think he's on your bench until further notice, which sucks because he gets so many targets, so many opportunities. But I feel like he's got to be kind of on your bench. George, I have a question for you. We have a fan question submitted.
Okay.
So it's between two people. It is Brandon Ayuk or Michael Pittman this week.
why
Two of your favorite people, by the way.
Two of my favorite. I mean,
and you can also throw in Alan Lazard. It was a pick 1 of 3.
But it was pick
Gotcha.
2 of 3. You have to bench one. But the issue is this episode is coming out Friday, so if you say Lazard and he gets 2, you're going to look like an idiot.
Oh,
But-
well, I'm going to
Why
say
is George's
Lazard and
flag
hope he
waving?
gets more than 2. Why is my flag waving? I have a fan on in this room. So
okay.
it's not that crazy. Anyway,
It's Ghost.
I'm going to
If you
say
wanna see the
Lazard
ghost.
and hope that it doesn't ruin this.
All right, so Lazard. So between Ayuk and Pittman, which one are you starting? Which one are you benching?
I'm starting Ayuk. I don't
Starting
know what
Ayuk.
exactly. I don't know what exactly it is with Brandon Ayuk lately. Deebo Samuel hasn't really completely gotten back from the injury. The Cardinals are an easier matchup than the Eagles defense. I know we're talking about the Eagles defense struggling against the run, but they're still a solid secondary. So I'm going Ayuk. And honestly, it could go either way. Pittman did look better with Matt Ryan in there. So if they stick with him, I like his long-term outlook, but not really this week.
Well, there you got it. That's it for the Colts. That's it for that matchup. I mean, mercy, football gods. I mean, come on. The Eagles just had to come off tough matchups against the Texans and the Commanders, and you got to do them dirty by giving them the red-hot Colts. I mean, mercy, football gods. Help out the Eagles' schedule a little bit, but I think that's enough about this game. I think we can move on to the next one. What do we got?
Alrighty.
We got
next
the
up,
New
we
York.
got
Oh, go ahead, Cody. Do it.
Tyler's been talking so much. I feel like I'm just sitting here listening. But
Shut up, my bad.
no, you're good. You're good. We all love it. New York Jets and New York Patriots.
New York
New York
Patriots.
This is
Patriots.
why I
Okay.
shouldn't have said anything.
All right, I'm going back to
I'm
talking.
gonna sit back over here.
I'll
Jets
intro
and
it,
the
Tyler. We're
Patriots.
good.
Oh man,
New York Jets, New England Patriots. And the only real significant injury in this game right now is Corey Davis is still not participating in practice. But this is a tough defense again for the Jets to go up against. So it's hard to say who you really want to play. I think we still can be in on Michael Carter. And if you have to play somebody, I think it's Garrett Wilson in that Jets passing offense. But your options are still very limited despite that team being very solid so far this year.
I really like Garrett Wilson, but I do think the Patriots defense is pretty solid. So you definitely have to take that into account.
Yeah, they're currently number 4, so I would try to pivot away from Garrett Wilson. Now he is a rookie and he can go off at any moment, but I would pivot away if possible.
We're on the same page there. And then we can move to the Patriots side of the ball where it's not really that much prettier. It's hard to tell. It's Ramondre Stevenson and then Damian Harris in that split. Stevenson's been definitely taking control, but I still have that gut feeling that all of a sudden we're going to see the Damian Harris 60% for the carries game, and it's going to make us all puke. But as of now, it's Stevenson. And then at their wide receiver position, it's Jacoby Myers.
I'm not going to lie. I have thought Damian Harris has been on IR for 3 weeks, so that's about how well he's been playing.
We'll give you a pass because you did just come off your honeymoon.
Thank you.
We'll give you a pass this time. But no, Ramondre Stevenson's the guy.
Yeah.
He's got to be in your lineup if you got him. I mean, he's been
I saw him shoot up the rankings, so I just assumed that Harris got hurt. But apparently
Harris was hurt for one game while you were on your honeymoon. So that's probably why you saw the shift. But no, he's not on IR. He was actually active their last game. So,
and what a big win this would be if the Jets pulled this off. Like, it would be so cool. I mean, the Jets are looking pretty good right now. How awesome would it be to see the terrible Jets just suddenly start doing great? What's going on over there in New Jersey? The Jets and the Giants looking solid.
It's that same water from Philly. I mean, it's right across
same water, is just that same dirty.
It's the
drinking the Delaware River.
All right. True. Well, I think that wraps up Jets Patriots. Maybe the New York Patriots would do better than New England Patriots with how we're talking. But we got to move on to the West Coast with the Los Angeles Rams traveling east at 1 o'clock, as Cody would say, to the New Orleans Saints. But they will get back Matthew Stafford, who cleared concussion protocol. And they're going to be without Cooper Kupp. So is there any Rams you want to play? I think their defense is the best play this week.
George, give me a breakdown on those running backs. You have been so high on Kieran Williams, however you want to pronounce it. I don't really care. Williams. You've been so high on Williams for weeks now, and he didn't come out and perform exactly how we were hoping. So give me a breakdown of the running backs. Where are we at?
So I will say, I mean, it's a little bit of a weird game considering they didn't have a starting quarterback, but Williams didn't come out and get any snaps until the last drive of the game. He looked effective. You never really know if it was just a prevent defense on the Cardinals side because they were down. But I'm hoping that there's still that Kyren Williams breakout game happening, that they were easing him back from the injury. Until we see that happen, though, you can't play any of them. They're basically a 50-50 split between Akers and Henderson, and then it's a carry here, a carry there, a carry there. Maybe if Williams gets more involved, it'll be a 33-33-33 split. Like, it's ugly. You can't touch any of them, but I'm still thinking that the best chance of us having a fantasy-relevant running back coming out of this team the rest of the season is Williams if he gets up to speed.
I'd say on the wide receiver side, if I had to play one, I still lean Van Jefferson, but I'd prefer not to have to play one, personally.
I mean,
I'm with you.
Okay, I'll be the odd one. I would say Allen Robinson still. Like, we've seen him get targets. Yeah. Like, I have to think, like, they brought him in, and we know when Cooper Kupp's out there, the first read is always Cooper Kupp. Like, that's the guy that they're going to go, like, they don't throw it to anyone unless Cooper Kupp is covered. So I think Allen Robinson is going to be the guy that they're going to now to feature. I think Van Jefferson is still going to be like a field stretcher, a guy that goes down the field. He might have like the bigger, more exciting plays, but I think like the target guy would be Allen Robinson. I know I'm in the minority here. And then I would actually go Robinson, Higbee, and I know he's looked awful the last couple of weeks, but I think he'll get an uptick without Cooper Kupp, and then Van Jefferson as my third option. So I'm pretty different from you
I mean,
guys.
no love for Ben
You're not.
Skoranek. I mean, I feel like Ben Skoranek looks just like Cooper Kupp when he has the uniform on. So maybe
I can't
Stafford
say
will
his
just be
name, so I
look.
wasn't going to try.
Stafford's coming off a concussion. He might not be all there. He might see Skoranek, think it's Cooper Kupp. You might have a massive game.
That's
Daily fantasy, just Ben Skoranek right there.
Anyway, so Cody, you're not confident that Van Jefferson can be a high volume guy, that he's more of a field stretching receiver. Is that what you're telling me?
yes.
Oh boy,
Then my
Jesus,
favorite
that
target's
is
Tyler Higbee. Then my favorite target is
Oh.
Tyler Higbee. Because Allen Robinson can get all the targets he wants, but he's done nothing with them all year. I'm still convinced that he's washed. And maybe this is me putting the reverse hex on him, that he's all of a sudden going to be good. Because I've done this to 3 guys this year now, where I've completely counted them out, and then they've decided to play football. But then, so my tight end to watch off the waiver wire this week is Tyler Higbee.
Allen Robinson is on. Did you pick him up?
No.
So if he was a free agent right now, you would be picking him up?
That depends. Who am I cutting? I really like my team. But I'd pick him up. Yeah.
Aren't you in
The
last?
team with 3 wins in last place.
I've said it all year, and this is the hard part about having a fantasy. The team that I've constructed is my favorite team I've ever put together in fantasy football, and it has me 3 wins.
You cut Aaron Rodgers from your fantasy team last week.
It was 3 weeks ago, but yeah.
How painful was that for you?
Not painful. I hoped it turned around the Packers season, and he went out and had the Detroit game to repay me. So
That's crazy.
Detroit. Good way to move into our next game. The Detroit Lions traveling to that other New York team and the New York Giants. Sorry, I have to get us back on track here, but it's funny
So
how
many
he's
New
just
York
checking
teams.
his fantasy lineup. Yeah, right? Like, there's 3 of them now, apparently. That's 4 if you count the Bills. But anyway, so we'll start with the Lions side of the ball. DeAndre Swift, full participant in practice. Normally we don't mention when they're a full participant, but I think this one is key because Swift has played the last few weeks, but we knew that he was going to be limited coming back from his injury, limited in snaps and such for a few weeks after he was activated. We're now 3 weeks out from that point. Does DeAndre Swift finally start to become that running back that we drafted him to be, or is we still another week or 2 out from that?
I feel like you play him regardless. I feel like if you drafted DeAndre Swift or you drafted him knowing what his potential is, I don't care what he's looked like the last couple of weeks. He's in my lineup. Like, he has to be.
yeah,
And he
I
did
think
repay you 1 week, just not last week.
and I do think you have to still consider like what we've seen all season. Like Jamal Williams is still going to be a touchdown stealer.
He's so annoying.
In some situations. Like he's it's just going to happen. Like, and even look at last week's game. The game was on the line. It was 3rd and 8, and they ran a running play to Jamal Williams. That Jamal Williams is that coaching staff loves him. Like he brings a certain energy to that team, so he is still going to get his carries. You have to still throw Swift out there. He's a 45-yard touchdown on any play. Like he can do that 55 yards if they're 55 yards out. I don't need comments telling me, well, what if they're 60 yards out? Can it still be a 45 touchdown? You know what I'm trying to say. So DeAndre Swift in your lineup, it's not a great matchup. The Giants are top 10 against running backs. So I would probably not play Jamal Williams this week, but just know there is potential. This is a week, like you mentioned, 5 carries, 18 yards, 2 touchdowns, and looks like a good fantasy week.
Jamal Williams is one of my least favorite players for fantasy. I love him as a person. I love him as a football player. I root for him. But in fantasy and as a DeAndre Swift owner, I can't stand him. Because it's always like, all right, Swift got you all the way down the field and Jamal Williams touchdown. And it is so annoying. Who's more annoying for fantasy purposes? Jamal Williams stealing stuff from Swift or Taysom Hill stealing from Alvin Kamara?
Taysom Hill. Because it doesn't
I'm
make
also
sense.
with Taysom Hill.
But Jamal scores more.
Yeah,
So he steals more often.
yeah, I understand. But Taysom Hill, like, it just doesn't make sense that you bring in your tight end to play quarterback on the Wildcat quarterback on the goal line. Like, it just doesn't. And it definitely doesn't make sense when it's like the 25-yard touchdown run. You're like, what are we doing here? Like,
I can't stand when they bring in Taysom Hill and teams play for the pass, and it's like every time Taysom Hill's in the backfield, it's a run with Taysom Hill. Play for the run. What are you doing? It is so frustrating.
Well, like,
but that's enough.
The
about
other
Taysom
reason
Hill.
I'm going to say Taysom Hill, though, just to throw this in here, like, DeAndre Swift has played limited snaps because of the injury. He has 4 touchdowns this year. Kamara has 3, playing pretty much the entire season. Like, I feel like Kamara is getting the shorter end of the stick, and that's the problem.
Kamara's just frustrating for fantasy. He either has like one of the greatest seasons for running backs, Okay, when he's not on my fantasy team, he crushes it. But when he is on my fantasy team, he is horrible, and it's like frustrating.
And when he is, you trade him, and then he has 6 touchdowns the first week of the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about it. All right, next game.
Speaking of the Saints,
No,
we didn't
Giants
actually
side of
talk
the
about
ball.
All right, fine.
but we didn't actually
Giants.
talk about the Saints, and they're playing the Rams the last matchup. We kind of just blew over them
Oh yeah,
as we moved into the next one. Great job. Didn't you just say you were gonna? I forget how you worded it at the beginning, George. But
I'm
that's probably 'cause-
peacekeeper. I'm not the person keeping us on track.
Oh, peacekeeper. Okay, you're forgiven. But maybe we skipped over that because is there anybody worth playing? Let me just ask that question.
Kamara, Olave.
Kamara, Olave. That's it. I'm playing Taysom Hill in a league. I'm desperate for a tight end, but don't love it.
I feel like if you're in a tough bind, Jarvis Landry, if he plays, if he's healthy enough, is a potential flex play in a bind. I don't think he's a guy you're throwing in your lineup and like, yes, Jarvis Landry, but I think he is a potential guy.
Okay, so I think that does wrap up the Saints. Thank you for catching that, Cody. And now we can move to the Giants side of the ball as they're facing the Lions. And this
Barkley.
seems like a perfect matchup for you to play all your Giants, and there's no Giants to play. It's Barkley, and you have a good chance to stream Daniel Jones. And I don't even really like any of the pass catchers, even though you're streaming Daniel Jones.
Darius Slayton.
Barkley.
That's my
He's a favorite.
That's my flex stream of the week.
Slayton was last week. It's not going to be this week.
Um,
This week it's somebody else random.
Well, it's
Okay,
not going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. He's probably not going to play. So, is it that Sills guy, David Sills?
nope, it's Slayton. I'm on the
Sterling Shepard, Kenny Galladay. What do we got?
Sterling
didn't
Shepard is out for the
Michael
season.
Strahan.
Kenny Galladay probably won't play.
He got benched last week.
Kenny Galladay, he should have been benched before last week, but yes,
Jeremy
he
Shockey.
did. He'll probably
be
get more
somebody
points
random.
than Kenny Galladay.
Yeah, but I think if you look back at why we're still saying stream Daniel Jones is we talk about all the time. He's not known for running, but he gets yards with his legs, and that's why he enters the streaming category against this defense this week.
Danny fullback does finish up the 1 o'clock games and moves us on to 4 o'clock, where we talk about the struggling Las Vegas Raiders against the struggling Denver Broncos. The Broncos offense has been absolutely awful. They're probably down Jerry Jeudy this week. They're probably down KJ Hamler still. Cortland Sutton is maybe the only guy we're playing.
Preseason, I would have said Broncos Raiders should be a primetime game, and it could potentially be game of the year. That's how high I was on these two teams in preseason, and now I'm like, I don't even want this game to come up on Red Zone.
Dude, this was my hardest game to pick in our picks league. I'm not gonna lie. I looked at it, I'm like, man, I don't know.
It's tough.
The Raiders' defense though has been so bad. I think you have to play Sutton. I think Dolchich can be in the tight end dartboard as a potential guy. I mean, there's not many other options like that you'd want to throw out there because just Russ has been so bad too.
I feel like the Broncos have found ways to win when the Raiders can't. The Raiders haven't just like found that thing that can help them win, but at the same time, the Raiders are the ones who have Devontae Adams. They have Josh Jacobs. No one's talking about him, but Josh Jacobs is having a hell of a year. He's doing really well this year. So you got two really big name guys on that team. I feel like they still have that opportunity to win this game and maybe even put up decent points. But the Broncos defense is a very good defense, so that's the only problem with it. I do like that you mentioned Dolchich. I really like him this week. I think, watching Titans Broncos last week, I can tell you that even though he didn't catch a lot because Russell Wilson couldn't throw, Dolchich got a lot of targets. He was always looked at in the key situations. So anytime you have a player like that, it's big. But I'm going to go on to the other side of the tight end dartboard with Darren Waller out. Any love for Foster Moreau, or are we still out?
So I'm still out this week, and I'm going to say it again by the stat I said on Tuesday, or for the Tuesday show on Monday night. The Broncos would be 8-1 if their offense would have just scored 18 points in every game this season. Like, the Broncos defense is super good. Like, they're freaking legit. So it scares me. I'm still going to play Devontae Adams, but Surtain is a lockdown quarter. It scares me. Be ready for a bad game from Devontae Adams. Foster Moreau, I'm not in love with it in this matchup because of how good the Denver Broncos defense is. I'm not. Matt Collins is not my daily fantasy guy this week. Like Josh Jacobs is probably the only guy, or Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams. He's an every week starter. Like I don't think about him when I talk about players. Josh Jacobs is a guy that he's been so well. The running backs are so bad. He's definitely going to be out there. And then this is completely random, but I was just going to give a shout out to Connor Young. You probably don't have any idea who that is. It's a guy that works for the Raiders that I follow on Instagram. He put out one of the dopest entry, like of the players entering the field of Josh Jacobs. You should go check it out.
Interesting.
I think that's a good way to end Raiders Broncos. And now we can move on to a much more interesting 4:00 game. The Dallas Cowboys traveling to the Minnesota Vikings. Vikings coming off that huge win against Buffalo last week. Justin Jefferson, limited participant in practice on Thursday. It looks like it's just kind of a workload deal, though. He's going to be good to go. And yeah, the Cowboys defense has been pretty good, but I think you're still starting your normal Vikings with Jefferson, Cook, Cousins could be a streamer if you need it. TJ Hawkinson, obviously, in there because he's one of the tight ends that actually has some upside. And then the weekly question of Adam Thielen or not Adam Thielen.
No.
That yawn kind of
that
yawn kind of describes my thought.
I'm so sorry about the amount I yawn on these shows. Like, it is crazy. It's just because I don't sleep, guys. I promise. Sleeping's overrated.
Well, I think you might also be yawning too because as good as this game is going to be to watch, that means you can play your fantasy options. And the guys that you're used to playing, your Dalvin Cook, your Justin Jeffersons, your CeeDee Lambs, your Dak Prescotts. Like, you can throw TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Schultz in there. Like, those are both guys, especially in the tight end landscape you're throwing out there. So the question is, are you playing Zeke if he's activated, or are you playing Adam Thielen? And I think the answer is no to both.
Yeah, I'd rather have Pollard.
I feel like Thielen is a no. I feel like that's just a no. Throw that out there. But yeah, the question is Zeke, Pollard, both, or neither.
I would go Pollard. Even if Zeke's back, I don't know if they'll give him a full workload. They play on Thursday night, so they might try to preserve him so they get him for both games instead of trying to bring him back to re-aggravate him. So I would be
playing with a brace on his knee. I mean, I've seen players play with braces before, but at the running back position, I mean, I can tell you, I tore my ACLs and tried running with braces. You're slower. You don't run as fast with the brace on. You could try. You might run just as hard, but it's hard to run with a brace on. So I feel like you might be a little slower. It might limit him a little bit more. So yeah, I agree. I'm going Pollard.
All right, that's actually unanimous right there, and I think that wraps up the Cowboys and Vikings. So we got one more 4:00 game. Cincinnati Bengals traveling to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bengals side of the ball, they're still missing Jamar Chase, most likely. They have not officially rolled him out, but he did not practice again Thursday. So I think we got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, both locks.
Yep.
Yeah. T. Higgins for sure. Like, you can play all them Bengals, man. They're going to be so clean, and they're white tiger Bengal jerseys. And it's against the Steelers, and they always get, even when they were a bad team, they got hyped to play the Steelers. Like, you can say the same thing. Like, the Steelers are going to give it their all, and this will actually should be a surprisingly good game because both teams know each other so well. They always play each other hard. But because of that, I think T. Higgins is a for sure start. I think Tyler Boyd is flexible. How you can't bench Joe Mixon and Joe Burr. You're definitely playing him.
Curious to see what Mixon does. I mean, he's coming off like a 50-point week.
Yeah, it's going to be a disappointment no matter what.
Yeah, no matter what, you're not going to get what you were
expecting. He can get 18 points and you're going to feel let down. Which that's the sad part about fantasy when someone scores that many points. Go ahead.
So we're going to buy low on Joe Mixon after this week no matter what he does because people are going to be like, he didn't get 50, he's done.
That is a great PSA reminder. Make sure you know when your league's trade deadline is, because if you do need that extra piece for the playoffs and life has been a little busy and you haven't had a chance to look at trade offers, don't get to the point where it's the day after the trade deadline and you finally think of that good deal and you're like, oh, well, now I can't do anything. So make sure you find out when your league's trade deadline is and make as many moves as you can before then because trading's fun. Trading makes the game more exciting.
A lot of leagues are actually Black Friday, so don't get mixed up in the holidays. Make trades for the 3 games that we're going to get on Thanksgiving next weekend, but we're not going to talk about those because we have more games to get through today.
Yep.
Two more, both divisional. We'll start with Sunday Night Football. Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers. This game actually got flexed into Sunday Night Football. And Chiefs wide receiver news. I mean, I don't really know too much about what's going on with Juju. He is in concussion protocol, though, so it would not be shocking if he missed. And Mecole Hardman hit injured reserve this week. So we down to Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Kadarius Toney. Toney was one of the big waiver wire pickups of the week, and now in a much less crowded Chiefs wide receiver room. Do you like either of them in this matchup?
I think
Kadarius.
I feel like you can throw Tony into your flex. I'm not in love with him as like a wide receiver 1 or 2. Like I'm not throwing him in my lineup immediately like most people are, but I do think he is playable for sure, especially with all the injuries there, because you got to think it is still Patrick Mahomes. He is still going to get his. Travis Kelce can't catch every pass, so if they don't have any other receivers, but are you still throwing out Tony just as fast if Juju plays? Which, like, mind you, I don't think Juju's going to play with how bad his concussion looked. I think he's going to have another week off. But, let's say Juju does play, he's fully healthy. You still throwing Tony out there?
It would definitely be tougher. I'm definitely a lot more bullish on Tony if Juju doesn't go, and we're expecting him. With the new rules with concussion, I think it'll be very interesting to see if he does go. And then you also have to be worried that like any potential hit to the head could rule him out. So I would probably still put Kadarius out there. And maybe it's too because I was listening to the Kelsey brothers. I can't think of the actual name of their podcast, but I was listening to some sound bites from their podcast. And Travis Kelsey was like, he went on a little tangent about like how he doesn't understand how New York gave up on Tony so fast. He's like so athletic. He's a super freak. He asks all the right questions. He works hard. Like things look so natural for him. And so I would not be surprised if like Tony become maybe not even this year, but starts to become like a missing piece or like what they had hoped Sky Moore would have been by at this point as a guy that breaks out for them. So I do like Tony this week, especially without Juju, but I also like him as a potential league winner as we get into the playoff stretch.
Yeah, I mean, I am with you there. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, yeah, Chiefs running backs. We cannot forget about the Chiefs running backs.
None. Neither.
Neither?
Yeah,
None?
I know you want to play Pacheco because you put him on your waiver wire like 4 weeks in a row now, and you just want to be right about that one, which he's probably the guy you should own, but it's probably not the guy that you want to play.
It's tough telling people to add somebody like Pacheco where, like, yeah, you're not confident playing him. I'm not confident playing him unless I'm super desperate this week, too. But just because of the volume, he shouldn't be sitting on your waiver wire. Because, as soon as he finally does have that breakout game, it's going to be waiver rush, and then all of us that are watching it are going to be like, hey, should have done this 2 weeks ago. You wouldn't have to worry about this waiver rush. So that's why I'm saying to go out and get him. I'm not saying I'm confident playing him every week by putting him on that article. It's a tough situation with him. I think that wraps up the Chiefs.
Before you move on, I will say, if you have Pacheco and you are in an extreme bind, so I'm talking like both your starters are on bye, like you're literally picking a guy off the waiver, go with Pacheco because if you think about, I think it was last season, it might have been 2 seasons now, but I'm pretty sure it was last season. Like we had that 3-week run where like Derek Gore looked like the next biggest running back. Like they just all of a sudden were like, we're going to run the ball now. And, with some of the injuries at the wide receiver, Kadarius Toney still being new, like I would not be surprised if they're like, the Chargers expect us to come out here and throw a 60 time. Pacheco, you're up. Like this could be the game. So I'm not betting on that to happen, but if you're in, if I'm debating that or some other guy on waivers or like Pacheco versus Chuba Hubbard, in a really bad and not a great matchup, I would probably go Pacheco in that case.
It's good advice there, Cody. I'm with you there as well. We can move on to the Chargers side of the ball, where it's kind of surprising we're seeing some practice participation out of Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. It's too early for us to tell what's going to happen with them, so I feel like it's going to be hard for us to say, hey, what do we do? But if Keenan Allen goes, it's been long enough from the injury. I hope he's healthy enough to start him. I think he's got to be back in your lineup if you're desperate enough at that wide receiver position. If he doesn't go, and Mike Williams doesn't go, I think we're back to the same guys that we were at last week. Josh Palmer, maybe DeAndre Carter if you really are in that situation. But the Chargers wide receivers, I feel like we can't really give a clear picture on what to do because we don't know what's going to happen with their active inactive report.
It's weird hearing you say, if you're desperate, play Keenan Allen. Like, I understand the reason why. Like, it makes 100% sense in this situation, but still, it sounds weird hearing out loud.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I like what you said. You know, if they don't play, I think Palmer is probably my number one guy. Carter is getting more involved though. If they, if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen both play, then I mean, look, they're your studs. You're most likely going to have them in your lineup, even though they're coming off an injury. Keenan Allen makes me more nervous than Mike Williams just because Keenan Allen's already re-aggravated it more than once. So I'm afraid he'd re-aggravate it again. Just like Julio Jones for the Titans last year. Like, every time you think he's healthy enough to play, he just re-aggravates it anyway. So that makes me nervous. But let's say one of them play. I don't care which one. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, doesn't matter. If one of them play, are you still playing Josh Palmer?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would not feel great, but I would probably still play Josh Palmer if both play.
Well,
just because with Keenan Allen, we've already seen him come back and not be great. It was a high ankle sprain for Mike Williams. Those are always tough to come back from, and you're never normally right once you get back. So I think I would still roll out Josh Palmer. I think you can throw Gerald Everett into this mix too as the tight end because of how bad the tight end markets are. I think, and this matchup, we expect it to be high scoring, whether we get that or not, but that is the expectation for this game.
Yeah, the only other person I was going to mention is Gerald Everett. So you covered that, Cody, and I think that can wrap up Chiefs-Chargers. One more game left on the docket. San Francisco 49ers traveling to the Arizona Cardinals. And the Cardinals injury report, it looks like Kyler Murray is probably not going to go. So anybody out there who has Kyler Murray, you can either go out there and try to see if Jimmy Garoppolo is still out on your wire, and then you can keep Murray in your lineup, flip to Garoppolo if he doesn't go. If that's not an option, I think I'm just trying to avoid Kyler because I'm not being the one that's stuck with Colt McCoy. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I'm with you. If you can't get Jimmy G, go pick up Daniel Jones. Like, just go play Daniel Jones in that situation. And if it's Colt McCoy's out there, like, I know Hollywood Brown is expected to be back off the IR, not playing him. So I'm going to have my hesitancy. I'll still play DeAndre Hopkins, but it's not great. So,
and I'll say I'm also not playing Rondale Moore, knowing that Hollywood could be back, and we're not going to know in time to really tell before all these games play. So, yeah.
With the uncertainty and it being the Monday night game, there's really not a single Cardinal I want to play.
James Conner?
James Conner? I mean, you got Colt McCoy out there. They're probably going to want to run the ball.
I just think that they're going to want to run the ball. James Conner hasn't been the guy that we had hoped for. He hasn't looked as good as he did last year. This is a tough 49ers defense. It's divisional. Like, he's on the, like, in the borderline of, do I play him or one of these other guys that we talked about? Like, Deontay Foreman versus James Conner. I would play James Conner, even though, like, Foreman was a, afterthought and James Conner was a 5th-round draft pick. That's why we say the draft is no longer important at this point. You have to play who's doing better and the matchup.
You mean you would have started Foreman over Conner?
Correct.
Yeah, you said it the other way.
Oh, well, I definitely meant Foreman over Conner. George shook his head, so I thought it came across right. Foreman over Conner.
Well, I got him, but no, yeah, I think you're going to be in more situations than that where you're forced to play Conner, knowing who's on bye. But yeah, no, don't force him into your lineup. Play him if you need to.
Fair enough.
All right, hang on. I'll ask some questions.
Okay, cool.
For James Conner, I think this will be fun. Just to wrap it up here, I'm going off of NFL.com projection, so I'll ask some guys right above him.
I'm going to go rapid fire.
And then we'll go a few guys back real quick, just yes, no. So right above him in projections this week is Ramondre Stevenson.
Stevenson, yes.
Stevenson.
Right underneath him is Devin Singletary.
You already know my answer. Conner.
I'll go Conner.
So San Francisco is the number 1 defense against fantasy running backs. Cleveland is the 31st. And it's inside now. So I would go Singletary. So that's Nick Chubb is actually projected less points according to NFL.com. I don't know what that's about. Maybe they're afraid of the Bills defense.
It's Chubb 100%, yeah.
Foreman, I mentioned. Deontay Foreman.
I'd go
I'll
Foreman.
go Foreman.
Najee Harris. This one's interesting.
I'll go Harris. Steelers are going to be hyped to play the Bengals.
Man, I said rapid fire. Here I am.
And
I feel like, in my opinion, the Steelers have a better chance of getting a, throwaway touchdown with Najee Harris than the Cardinals do with James Conner. So I'm going to go Harris.
all right, and then the last one, David Montgomery.
Montgomery.
I'm actually starting Montgomery over. I'll start Montgomery.
Perfect. All right, so that was some rapid fire running back questions. If you guys have any that you want to ask us, feel free to reach out. But this was fun. It was great to
We
have
missed the 49ers. We missed the 49ers.
Oh,
Dude, we are rough today.
Dude, the Packers game is coming on in an hour. I'm getting a little antsy. I'm getting a little too close to the Titans fan here. But 49ers.
I'll rapid fire the 49ers. I'll rapid fire them for you. Garoppolo is a potential streamer. Christian McCaffrey, good. You can start Eli Mitchell if you're desperate for a running back. Debo in your lineup. Ayuk could be a flex. George Kittle.
Kittle. And their defense.
So
pretty much we're playing every 49er.
yes.
Okay.
Ross Dwelly is in your lineup.
Might not be bad for a touchdown bet.
I'm in it. I'm in on the first touchdown bets, man. That's where I make my money on the bets. But yeah, I think that finally wraps it. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. So like I said, this has been a lot of fun. George, we'll have to get you in person with the two of us the next time or something. So we're all three together again. But as always, thanks for checking out the Couch GMs podcast.
Yeah, guys, it's been great. I mean, look, you got two of us wearing quarterback jerseys. Let's see you in your quarterback jersey. Let's see you in your jersey in general. It's really interesting having two quarterback jerseys on this couch, and one of them is an all-time great and going to make the Hall of Fame, obviously, and the other one's Aaron Rodgers. So it's definitely
I knew you were going there.
It's definitely an interesting situation. But look, guys, reach out. We want to see the pictures of you in your jerseys. We want to hear what you thought of this episode. What players are you unsure about? Who do you want to put in your lineup? Give us your last-minute trade questions. Let's make a deal that's going to win you a championship. Either way, this podcast is so much more fun for us and more fun for you when you get involved.
Yes, Tyler, and thank you all one more time for listening into the Couch GMs podcast. For Tyler Snyder and Cody Roadcap, I'm George Kerth, and we'll see you all next week.
Tighten up. Boom.
Go Pack Go.